The book of Daniel, chapter 2, with a word of wisdom from our Father, in Jesus' name, verse 1. And in the second year of the reign of Nebuchadnezzar, Nebuchadnezzar dreamed dreams wherewith his spirit was troubled, and his sleep brake from him. Then the king commanded to call the magicians, and the astrologers, and the sorcerers, and the Chaldeans, for to show the king his dreams. So they came and stood before the king. And the king said unto them, I have dreamed a dream, and my spirit was troubled to know the dream. Then spake the Chaldeans to the king in Syriac, O king, live forever, a standard greeting to a king back then. Tell thy servants the dream, and we will show the interpretation. When they couldn't, usually they would just make something up, and people would buy it. And evil spirits played a part in this as well to make it more convincing and to persuade kingdoms into certain directions. So, of course, Satan would want to participate in a kingdom that had a world empire going on, which Babylon did at the time. So, you got to take that into consideration. The king answered and said to the Chaldeans, The thing is gone from me. If ye will not make known unto me the dream with the interpretation thereof. Nebuchadnezzar had forgotten the dream. He wants them to tell him what the dream was, and only God can do that. Only God can know one's thoughts and dreams. Satan can't do that. The only way he can gather information is from you running your mouth. So, loose lips sink ships. Watch who you spew out information to, because Satan will use it against you. He has every intention of killing you spiritually. You cannot drop your guard. You must have that gospel armor on and in place at all times. So Nebuchadnezzar says to the Chaldeans, he's forgotten the dream, and if they don't tell him what it is and the interpretation of it, ye shall be cut in pieces, and your houses shall be made a dunghill. But if ye show the dream and the interpretation thereof, ye shall receive of me gifts and rewards, and great honor. Therefore show me the dream and the interpretation thereof. They answered again and said, Let the king tell his servants the dream, and we will show the interpretation of it. See, they have nothing to work with. God is not with these people. And the king answered and said, I know of certainty that ye would gain the time. You're stalling for time, in other words, because ye see the thing is gone from me. They can't interpret it if they don't know what it is, and they can't know what it is without asking our Father. And they don't know who our Father is, these Chaldeans. But if ye will not make known unto me the dream, there is but one decree for you, for ye have prepared lying and corrupt words to speak before me. Nebuchadnezzar is on to their scam here now. Till the time be changed, therefore tell me the dream, and I shall know that ye can show me the interpretation thereof. The Chaldeans answered before the king and said, There is not a man upon the earth that can show the king's matter. Well, that's true. Only God can. Therefore there is no king, lord, nor ruler that asks such things at any magician or astrologer or Chaldean. And it is a rare thing that the king requireth, and there is none other that can show it before the king except the gods whose dwelling is not with flesh. Only God our Father can do such a thing. For this cause the king was angry and very furious, and commanded to destroy all the wise men of Babylon. And the decree went forth that the wise men should be slain, and they sought Daniel and his fellows to be slain. They were going to kill Daniel and his 3 friends, known as Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Then answered Daniel with counsel and wisdom to Arioch, the captain of the king's guard, which was gone forth to slay the wise men of Babylon. He answered and said to Arioch, the king's captain, Why is the decree so hasty from the king? Then Arioch made the thing known to Daniel. Then Daniel went in and desired of the king that he would give him time, and that he would show the king the interpretation. Then Daniel went to his house and made the thing known to Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, also known as Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, his companions, that they would desire mercies of the God of heaven concerning this secret, that Daniel and his fellows should not perish with the rest of the wise men of Babylon. Then was the secret revealed unto Daniel in a night vision. Then Daniel blessed the God of heaven. He asked God what the interpretation of the dream was, and the dream itself, God answered. Simple as that. Always ask your Father. He knows. And now, after Christ paying the price for one and all times, whosoever will can accept Christ and approach our Father. After repenting of our sins, we can inquire of the Lord ourselves. It's a beautiful thing, and it's sad to see it not taken advantage of, and people banging their heads over and over again against walls when all they had to do the whole time was ask our Father. He'd be happy to hear from them and to help them. So always ask God to lead, guide, and direct you. He will, if you sincerely ask. And if you love Him, that's what He wants, is your love. That's the number one thing God wants from you, is your love. You're His child. Don't you want your children to love you? Wouldn't it be heartbreaking if they did not? Well, there you have it. Verse 20, Daniel answered and said, Blessed be the name of God forever and ever, for wisdom and might are His. Daniel knowing where all wisdom comes from. God. And He changeth the times and the seasons. He removeth kings and setteth up kings. Total control. God's on the throne. You got nothing to worry about. He is in total control. He giveth wisdom unto the wise, and knowledge to them that know understanding. He revealeth the deep and secret things. He knoweth what is in the darkness, and the light dwelleth with Him. I thank Thee and praise Thee, O God of my fathers, who hast given me wisdom and might, and hast made known unto me now what we desired of Thee. For Thou hast now made known unto us the king's matter. Therefore Daniel went in unto Arioch, whom the king had ordained to destroy the wise men of Babylon. He went and said thus unto him, Destroy not the wise men of Babylon, bring me in before the king, and I will show unto the king the interpretation. Then Arioch brought in Daniel before the king in haste, and said thus unto him, I have found a man of the captives of Judah that will make known unto the king the interpretation. The king answered and said unto Daniel, whose name was Belteshazzar, Art thou able to make known unto me the dream which I have seen, and the interpretation thereof? Daniel answered in the presence of the king, and said, The secret which the king hath demanded cannot the wise men, the astrologers, the magicians, the soothsayers show unto the king. Now listen to what he does here. Does he take credit for this for himself? No. Listen. But there is a God, uppercase G, in heaven, that revealeth secrets, and maketh known to the king Nebuchadnezzar what shall be in the latter days. I repeat, the latter days. Okay? Thy dream and the visions of thy head upon thy bed are these. As for thee, O king, thy thoughts came into thy mind upon thy bed that should come to pass hereafter in the latter days, and he that revealeth secrets maketh known to thee what shall come to pass. But as for me, this secret is not revealed to me for any wisdom that I have. Pay attention to how Daniel's handling this. This is an example to you. It didn't come from Daniel. It came from our Father. So Daniel says, again, to repeat, this is important to you. But as for me, this secret is not revealed to me for any wisdom that I have, more than any living, but for their sakes that shall make known the interpretation to the king, and that thou mightest know the thoughts of thy heart. Thou, O king, sawest, and behold, a great image. This great image, whose brightness was excellent, stood before thee, and the form thereof was terrible. This image's head was of fine gold, his breast and his arms of silver, his belly and his thighs of brass, his legs of iron, his feet part of iron and part of clay. Thou sawest till that a stone was cut without hands, which smote the image upon his feet that were of iron and clay, and brake them to pieces. Then was the iron, the clay, the brass, the silver, and the gold broken to pieces together, and became like the chaff of the summer threshing floors, and the wind carried them away, that no place was found for them, and the stone that smote the image became a great mountain, and filled the whole earth. Mountains symbolize nations in our Father's Word, or kingdoms in this case. This is the dream, and we will tell the interpretation thereof before the king. Thou, O king, art a king of kings, for the God of heaven hath given thee a kingdom, power, and strength, and glory. And wheresoever the children of men dwell, the beasts of the field and the fowls of the heaven hath he given into thine hand. This looks forward to chapter 4 of Daniel. There's another dream that's similar to what Daniel's saying here. And hath made thee ruler over them all. Thou art this head of gold. Nebuchadnezzar being a type of Antichrist. Don't forget that. Don't lose sight of that as we go through this. And after thee shall arise another kingdom inferior to thee. So first Babylon, then the Medes and the Persians, and another third kingdom of brass, historically that was Greece, which shall bear rule over all the earth. These are world empires. That's the meaning of it here that you are to pick up on, that there will be a one world government, a world empire that covers the entire globe at the beginning of the 5 months. All throughout the 5 months, it's just that it's wounded to death, and then in the middle of the 5 months, Satan appears as the false Christ, healing the wound to the one world government, of which this statue is symbolic of. And you have the historical types, yes, but this is concerning the latter days. Remember that stone that smote the image on the feet of it, okay? That's Christ returning at the 7th trumpet. So you're talking about just before that, in the hour of temptation, in the one world system there. That first beast of Revelation 13. And the fourth kingdom shall be strong as iron. Compare this to Daniel's fourth beast in the actuality. This is the historical, though, Rome, historically, but not in the actuality. In the actuality, the fourth beast is supernatural. It's diverse from all the other beasts that were before it, as it's written in Daniel 7. And we'll cover that when we get there, but understand this foundation our Father is giving us here in Daniel chapter 2, leading up to that actuality that you'll see in Daniel chapter 7. Same thing, though, but historically, there were types representing the actual real McCoy one world system, the one world government. There's never been one up until the 5-month-long hour of temptation, at the beginning of it. And why doesn't it happen until then? Because it has 10 horns. And that's symbolized by the 10 toes of this statue. And those 10 horns are 10 supernatural fallen angel kings that get cast out of heaven unto the earth with Satan. And you can read of that in Revelation 12. Satan and his angels are cast out of heaven unto the earth. And that is when that one world system emerges out of the sea, symbolic of peoples, multitudes, nations, and tongues. And it was like a leopard, symbolic of the Kenites and their 4 hidden dynasties, had the mouth like the mouth of a lion. That's royalty. The House of Windsor. So you have to take into account the Christian nations as well, because it's a world system. And they're on planet Earth, are they not? And they cover quite a bit of geography. So you can't not include all the nations of the world in that one world system. And then, of course, you have the bear of Daniel chapter 7, as well as Revelation 13, feet like the feet of a bear, being the communist nations, having 3 ribs in the mouth of it, symbolic of the Christian nations and the implementation of communism that's been going on for quite some time to draw them into a one world system. That doesn't finally emerge until the hour of temptation begins. So the fourth kingdom, and in the actuality this is the supernatural, with the 10 horns, shall be strong as iron, for as much as iron breaketh in pieces and subdueth all things, and as iron that breaketh all these shall it break in pieces and bruise. And the legs of the statue you could even see as Satan's 2 horns like a lamb, the theocracy, the governmental, and the religious, okay? And whereas thou sawest the feet and toes, there are 10 toes, 10 horns, okay? That's how you know what we're really talking about. It's in the latter times. Part of potter's clay and part of iron, the kingdom shall be divided. But there shall be in it of the strength of the iron, for as much as thou sawest the iron mixed with miry clay. In this one world government, the supernatural, the fallen angels, and Satan will mix with the human governments into this one world system. And as the toes of the feet were part of iron and part of clay, so the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly broken. It doesn't mix together. Supernaturals and flesh men don't mix together. The Kenites are hybrids. The fourth beast being diverse from the leopard, that might confuse you, but they're still human. They're still flesh and blood. They're not supernatural, the Kenites. They're hybrids. But the fourth kingdom, the angels, the fallen angels, and Satan as well, are supernatural. They're not in flesh bodies. Verse 43, And whereas thou sawest iron mixed with miry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men. But they shall not cleave one to another, even as iron is not mixed with clay. And as I said, you have the lion, the Christian nations, and the bear, the communist nations. Christianity and communism will not mix, and neither will the supernatural and flesh man. It just doesn't work. And it's not going to last for any longer than 5 months anyway. Falling apart just before the middle with the deadly wound, most likely coming from the Christian nations. We don't know, but most likely that's where it comes from. You see the king of the south in the 11th chapter of this book of Daniel, in the first half of that 5-month-long hour of temptation, coming against the vile person, which is Satan, in the first half hour. The first 2.5 months, that is to say. So that's not a one-world peace system. That's a deadly wound. So we'll see when it happens, but it's a strong clue as to where the deadly wound comes from, are the Christian nations that go against this communistic, atheistic system. But then, after the deadly wound, to the one-world system, the first beast, Satan appears as Antichrist to heal the wound. And because they'll think he's Jesus, they'll cease to oppose this one-world government and think Christ has returned to set up his kingdom. But it's Antichrist. It's not the true Christ. He doesn't return until the 7th trumpet. And we read of it here. Verse 44, And in the days of these kings shall the God of heaven set up a kingdom, at the 7th trumpet, which shall never be destroyed, and the kingdom shall not be left to other people, but it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. For as much as thou sawest that the stone was cut out of the mountain without hands, and that it brake in pieces the iron, the brass, the clay, the silver, and the gold, the great God hath made known to the king what shall come to pass hereafter, and the dream is certain, and the interpretation thereof sure. So, how does Christ destroy this statue specifically? Well, because the lion being symbolic of Judah, as it's written in the book of Genesis, chapter 49, the scepter shall not depart from Judah until Shiloh come, until the true Christ comes, the rightful heir to the throne of David. So that's the end of that. That's the end of royalty as far as flesh man is concerned, and Christ comes to reign as King of Kings and Lord of Lords from that point on. Communism, symbolized by the bear, is destroyed at the 7th trumpet in the Battle of the Valley of Hamon-Gog. And the Kenites, the leopard, they cease to be because, again, they're hybrids, and all are changed into spiritual bodies at the 7th trumpet upon the return of the true Christ. So there won't even be a such thing as a Kenite, a mix between angel and man, because they're Satan's children that he fathered in the Garden of Eden whenever he fathered Cain, and the sons of Cain, the Kenites. That's what Kenites means. So they're over with, and they have no more power anymore. Their 4 hidden dynasties are obliterated. So that takes care of that. And then the fourth part of the one world system, the supernatural element with the 10 horns, is destroyed in the lake of fire, as it's written in Revelation 19:20. The beast and the false prophet are cast into the lake of fire. As I said, the 2 horns like a lamb that you see in Revelation 13:11 And I saw another beast rise up out of the earth, having 2 horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon, because it is the dragon. Those 2 horns are symbolic of the theocracy. It's a cheap fabric imitation of Satan trying to pass himself off as King of Kings and Lord of Lords. So it's a theocracy, the governmental, which is the beast, and the religious, his role of Antichrist. So those are destroyed in the lake of fire, as you can see in Revelation 19:20. Not 2 individuals, but Daniel's 4th beast with the 10 horns, which destroys the entire one world system, and all the angels are destroyed as well, the fallen angels, and Satan's role of Antichrist, destroyed forever and ever at the 7th trumpet by that stone, which symbolized the true Christ returning to set up his kingdom and to reign as King of Kings and Lord of Lords forever. So it's as simple as that, and that's why it says in Daniel 7 that the lives of the other beasts had their dominion taken away, but their lives were prolonged for a season during the millennium. Those that make up the communistic hierarchies, and the Kenites as well, and all of the world governments, they're not cast into the lake of fire at the 7th trumpet like the angels are, which make up the 4th kingdom, the 4th part of this one world system. It's all a one world system, 4 being the number of earth. Okay? So it's as simple as that. Everybody else goes through the millennium being given an opportunity to go into the eternity, or to follow Satan again after the 1,000 years are finished and be blotted out in the lake of fire. It's up to them. But only Satan is sentenced to perish, and his angels that make up the governmental body of his kingdom are destroyed at the 7th trumpet. They forfeited. They committed suicide when they left their first habitation, as you can read of in Genesis chapter 6 and the book of Jude. So they committed suicide by doing that. Satan, being the son of perdition, damned forever. And you can read of that in Ezekiel chapter 28. Everybody else goes through the millennium, except for Satan and his angels. Satan's locked up in the bottomless pit, and his angels are blotted out at the 7th trumpet. So there you have it. It's really quite simple. You have the historical within this statue giving you the blueprint of how it shall be in this end generation during that 5-month-long hour of temptation that occurs just before the 7th trumpet and the return of the true Christ. Verse 46, Then the king Nebuchadnezzar fell upon his face and worshipped Daniel, and commanded that they should offer an oblation and sweet odors unto him. And no doubt Daniel put a stop to this real quick. Don't worship me. I just told you this was from God, not me. The king answered unto Daniel and said, Of a truth it is that your God, uppercase G, is a God of gods and a Lord of kings, and a revealer of secrets, seeing thou couldst reveal this secret. As I said, Christ is the King of kings and Lord of lords. Emmanuel, God with us. Then the king made Daniel a great man, and gave him many great gifts, and made him ruler over the whole province of Babylon, and chief of the governors over all the wise men of Babylon. Then Daniel requested of the king that he set Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego over the affairs of the province of Babylon. But Daniel sat in the gate of the king.